gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 308. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Saturn, we have housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
And it is that we're glad you're here.
Me or the listener?
Thanks. Both, really. If I'm being honest. I should mention that because we talk about our Patreon just incessantly, we won't shut up about it.
That's true.
If you like the idea of supporting the show, but you do not like the idea of a monthly subscription, then we understand.
That's true.
But we have a Redbubble, which I link to in the show notes. So if you're like, hey, you know, it'd be cool to get a Retro Warriors sticker or t-shirt and maybe kick these guys a couple bucks for the show that they do that I enjoy, and you don't have to do a subscription or any of that shit, then it's there. It's an option, and we would love it if you did that. Or if you just want Retro Warriors merch, that's where it's from. We all have little bits of it here and there.
We have some stickers right here. It's pretty nice.
It's all standing up. Andrew bought like all the shirts.
I know.
And that's all I see him wear every time I see him, which is wonderful.
And he has the, do we have magnets as well as stickers, or is it stickers that are on his
we have magnets. We have socks. He has the Game Dumpster shirt that he designed. Andrew, our Talking Wizards co-host, designed a bunch of the art.
Yeah, it's great.
That's used. Really, and it's we have a Talking Wizards art on there, which is really great.
However, if you are interested in the show, and you do want to throw some money at Patreon, if you throw as little as $1, you get access to the uncut episodes. And we just spent 20 minutes talking about video games, and that's content that's not going to be on the show for some reason.
Ever.
I don't know why we did it. It just happened to come up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like when you say uncut, because we all the time we're like, yeah, we have uncut show, but it's the uncut, like, because we record in 2-episode blocks, it's like 30-40 minutes of extra content
sometimes,
per recording block.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes we talk about show-related things or tangential things or video game adjacent or just nerdy shit in our lives. And other times we talk about things that are completely inappropriate for the regular show.
Yeah, the things that I would not want to put on the public internet.
Right.
This is on our pay-per-view. This goes on the pay-per-view internet.
Yes.
The late night internet. Anyway, my week. I got my Wii hooked up, like I talked about last week, and I've been playing some games on it. I did fire up Muramasa, the Demon Blade.
How is that? I've been looking at it off and on for years, and I've never gotten around to getting it.
It is very fun. It is very linear. So you don't. I feel like it's one of those games that when people look at it, it looks like it's some kind of like action RPG, maybe Metroidvania-y style thing. It's not. It's not that. It's very fun. I love the combat system in it. It makes you feel really powerful and like you have lots of options and things to do right from the beginning. It uses this system where you have multiple blades. In mid-combat, your blade will break, and you have to hit a button to switch to a different blade that has slightly different properties and just keep going in your whatever combo you're hitting 50 guys with. It's just a lot of fun to play, and it's a really gorgeous game to look at, even on my 13-inch CRT.
I have to say, the more you were talking about it, the less interested I was in it. It sounds like it might not be my kind of game.
It's very fun. I highly recommend Muramasa. But it's definitely an action game. It is not an RPG. It feels very much like, for some reason to me, it feels a lot like an NES game. In that there's not necessarily branching paths or much in the way of story, but you are going from screen to screen, clearing enemies. Right. The boss encounters are it's just a really beautiful game. It's very well done. It's very fun.
I might check out the Vita version.
I just adore that game. And I feel like it came out and nobody noticed but me. And then...
I didn't notice because I was between jobs and very broke when it came out, so I was not buying shit. So
I think it was Wii era, so I was working at GameStop at the time, and I remember I got it just because I want to say it came out budget priced. It was like $40. I want to say, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It could just be that I remember a time when new games cost $50, and so I'm conflating the two.
All Wii games were $50 when they came out. The full price ones anyway.
And so it came out. And I literally just bought it based on the cover and was like, this looks neat. And I took it home and I was like, this is great. So I think it was partially that combination of randomly picking up a thing that I happened to very much enjoy.
Right.
And it also being, I don't really want to call it a hidden gem because it's had multiple re-releases at this point. People are aware of it. But just a less talked about game, which is kind of our theme this week. It's perfect. I think it is.
Okay.
So dismissive. All right. If you want to say your dumb words, that's fine.
Whatever, crazy guy.
I can't legally stop you from saying that dumb thing. I also, I've been doing NES ROM hacks, lots of ROM hacks, all the ROM hacks I can find.
Right.
I've been playing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first game, NES ROM hack. I believe it's called Return to New York. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty fun. I'm having a good time with it. I'm just like going down the list of like must play NES ROM hacks. I'm really into NES ROM hacks right now. That's my
nice.
That's my thing. Obscure Wii hack and slash games and NES ROM hacks. That's what I'm all about right now.
I tried to make some NES ROM hacks back in the day.
Did you?
Yeah, I got as far as modifying the map and changing some text in the first Zelda and in Dragon Quest 1.
There you go. You almost could have been the creator of Wilford Brimley Battle. You were awful close.
Some friends of mine and I went so far as changing almost the entire script of the first Dragon Quest to make it mostly about tomatoes and sexual innuendos.
Because we were in high school. Pages of it?
What's that?
Pretty impressive. I said you changed both pages of it?
Almost all of both pages. Let's not go that far.
I've been playing it. It's very fun. It mostly is visual stuff because the sprites in the first TMNT game don't really look anything like any Ninja Turtles anything.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. It's pretty weird.
I know so little about the Ninja Turtles franchise that I've played more of that game than I have seen of any of the comics or cartoons.
Well, if
so
you were
in
to
my
watch
mind,
the cartoon,
that first game is completely canon.
If you were to watch the cartoon and then go play the game, you would be hard pressed to notate a lot of now. Some of them are there, like Shredder looks like Shredder, Bebop looks like Bebop.
Right.
Foot soldiers look like purple men, but they don't quite look like foot soldiers like from the cartoon. It took until this ROM hack for me to realize that the little crawly things at the very beginning of the first stage on the ground, those are supposed to be mousers. I didn't know that.
I only knew it from the manual, and
they don't look like mousers.
And when it said mouser, I was like, no, the mouser is from Mario 2. What the fuck is this?
That's wrong game. I got a misprint manual. So yeah, it changes a little bit of the script. The dam section is still complete bullshit, so it retains the true spirit of the original game.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. I've been having a good time. It does rebalance the turtles, although I'll be honest, even though I've played many hours of the original game, I could not tell you the stat differences between the turtles other than their weapon length.
Well, Donatello is the strongest one, right?
He is the strongest one, and also has the longest reach.
Right.
So usually he was the one you took out to kill a thing, and then you quickly put him away so you didn't lose him.
Right. So you didn't take any damage with him.
So
and
I
assume that's canon from the comics too. That Donatello is always the strongest one. Right?
I got news for you.
Oh.
That is the opposite of true.
Oh no.
Donatello is very often depicted as the weakest turtle of the four,
but he's got a bow staff.
I understand the confusion. Although I did have like a 10-year-old me fit. I was reading the ROM hack notes and it said it's like rebalance the turtles, and it tells you how they rebalanced them, and it's like made Raphael better in one-on-one combat. Cool, makes sense. And then they put made Leonardo the strongest because he's the leader. And I was like, well, fuck you. No one likes Leonardo the best. I got upset.
But I remember there was a rap that told me that he was the leader.
Well, let me tell you again, constant disagreement between those two jokers. Traditionally, in Ninja Turtles lore, Raphael is depicted as the physically strongest, although most hot-headed. Donatello is depicted very often as the physically weakest, although most intelligent. So yeah, there you go.
I'll
There's
put that
some
in
Ninja
my
Turtles.
I'll put that in my turtle diary.
Yeah, I hope you're taking notes. We have a quiz at the end of the
Shit.
show that I wrote based on Ninja Turtle personality types. So, anyway, that's about all I've been up to is just kind of goofing off on my Wii.
Nice. I am much more slowly picking through Yakuza 0 than the rest of the games in the series.
Mm-hmm. You seem to be taking big Dragon Quest Builders breaks.
I did. I've been taking some big breaks to build shit. But I do keep going back to Yakuza 0, and Outrun is bullshit. I just want to say for the record that Outrun is bullshit.
I feel like Outrun was never one of those games that you were supposed to like play and try to beat and be good at. It was just like a play it, see how far you can get, and listen to some cool tunes.
Exactly. That's how I always played it. And then you get to this point in Yakuza 0 where they're like, well, you have to get 5 million points or this other guy wins.
Now, I'm assuming this is some completely tangential sub-story that you refuse to let yourself skate past.
Well, so it's part of Kiryu's business. It's part of his real estate business.
That makes no sense. But please don't explain and continue.
No. And I tried it like 8 times. Just I kept resetting the game and trying it again and resetting the game and trying it. And I was becoming very frustrated. And then I just didn't reset the game and I was just pissed and I was fuming at it. And they're like, well, you'll lose 10% of your easily reclaimable territory. And that was it. And I was like, wait, really? I could have just moved on this whole fucking time.
Oh, well, there you go.
So I moved on.
They helped you out, Saturn.
They did. But yeah, other than that, it is fun. I just unlocked real estate, and then I've since put in 15 hours into maximizing my real estate business to try to just finish up that entire sub story before I move even 1 inch further in the game.
As you do.
So I'm stuck in real estate land right now.
Yeah, I did forget to mention it, but I not completed, but I've effectively, meaning there's not really anything left for me to do other than do more of it. I've effectively completed the business management minigame in Yakuza 7.
Nice.
Which that so far out of the Yakuza games I've played, which numbers like 3 and a 10th, is my most enjoyed minigame that I've played yet.
Nice.
What a fun. I also have a weird extreme love for business management games in general.
Yeah.
And you don't that's just not explored enough. You know, I love business management games. I played untold hours of Game Dev Story on my phone.
Right.
Holy cow. Just the whole cycle of like improve things a little bit and then watch money roll in.
Right. Yeah. I redid the entire game cycle on Game Dev Story on my first Android phone probably like 10 times.
Yes.
That's so good.
I think actually I bought the Switch version of the game.
Yeah, so did I.
Even though it was highly overpriced at like $20 or something insane. And
riddled with bugs and rollover text that falls out of its text boxes and
yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's knock out some news.
Yeah.
First up, CD Projekt says they're still waiting for Sony's approval to relist Cyberpunk on PS4. That's a long ass.
Huh. Yeah. Did they fix it?
We've had some accounts in the Discord that they have largely fixed the major glaring issues.
Yeah.
But that it's probably just going to kind of always run a little worse on PS4, which is basically expected and what CD Projekt admitted they knew the whole time.
But why would they have released it for the system if they knew it was going to run like crud?
But Saturn, money.
Oh, yeah.
They did it for money.
I don't think Sony has allowed anybody to make any games PS4 Pro exclusive.
And that doesn't sound familiar, but whenever they came out with the PS4 Pro was right about the time I checked out of PS4 in general.
Right.
So.
But I feel like that could have been a solution. If they could have made it Pro exclusive, that probably would have been fine. It probably would have skated by and people wouldn't have complained nearly as much.
Right.
But I guess that's just not in the cards.
Konami may be open to the idea of outsourcing more classic IPs following the release of Getsu Fumadin.
Finally,
presumably based on its performance. I think they're probably going to wait and see how that does. But
that means we can finally get our sequel to Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom.
God damn it. We have to know what happened. Is the Salad Kingdom safe? I'm okay with the idea. I've been saying for a long time that Konami just needs to like hand their video game shit to someone else and be like, make us money, please, because there's so many companies that would kill for that chance.
Absolutely. I don't even make games, and I would kill for that chance.
Yeah. Pokemon Legends Arceus. I don't know how to pronounce this Pokemon's name, but it's coming out on January 28th, 2022, and you can play it.
That's the Breath of the Wild style one, right?
Yeah, it looks kind of Gale of Darkness-y, more like a action RPG-oriented kind of thing.
Didn't we decide that Gale of Darkness was a game about a woman named Gale going into her new apartment, not knowing where the light switch is?
Yeah, and the power's out.
Yeah.
So she's trying to restore that is what it's meant. Masahiro Sakurai says he's not against the idea of an early retirement. I cannot imagine how not sleeping for 10 years would make you not against an early retirement.
Well, that's pretty taboo in Japan, the idea of early retirement. So I can see why he would be...
I feel like we're going to find out tomorrow that this guy's getting blood transfusions at his desk so that he can keep working. Like, This poor,
I have to add Pitfall Harry to Smash Brothers.
That's why he's so pale. Is all of his life force has been sucked out into Smash Brothers.
That said, he looks about 15 years younger than when he designed Kirby.
He does. He also looks transparent. Every time I see the man, he just looks very thin and fragile.
He might be a ghost.
He does look very young. I think he's a ghost. I think he's the ghost of his will to live at this point. Very hardworking man. He deserves it. He should do an early retirement. Absolutely. I would not be upset. Right. Ayuden Chronicle, which is the Suikoden-like Kickstarter game, is being delayed until 2023 to, quote, make it bigger and better.
I just like the way that you pronounce Suikoden.
What did I say?
You said Suikoden.
Suikoden. I've always said it that way. Is that not correct?
No, the I is not emphasized. The
Suikoden. Like you're calling a pig like Sui, when you call your pigs.
Perfect. It's pretty much what the game is about. It's a pig calling simulator.
I haven't played it, but I assumed it was about pigs. Anyway, a new pig game, Ayuden Chronicle, is being delayed until 2023. They said to make it bigger and better and add more content. That always makes me nervous when they say that about Kickstarter games. I can understand why you would be nervous in this specific instance. I'm okay with it because the whole shtick around Suikoden was that you're tons of dudes.
You're collecting all 108 characters. That was always the thing. And some of the characters were pretty phoned in the original games. It'd be like, oh, this is the chef. He will hang out at your castle and he will make food for people. And and that was it. That was the entire character's backstory and personality. And so if they're taking some time to flesh out some of the inevitably gross number of characters in this one, I'm okay with that.
Right. Next up, Sonic's 30th anniversary stream happened. They announced that Sonic Origins is to feature Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles and CD releases next year. I don't know why they need so much time to release the same ROMs.
Well, they did show that it was enhanced versions. They're all going to support widescreen. They said there's going to be some secret or surprise bonuses in them. It looks like it might be based on the Android versions that have the extra levels and shit.
Now, I was about to say, are these based on the Christian Whitehead Android versions?
It might be.
That were...
They haven't said definitively, but it looks like it might be based on the video footage that they showed. And if that is the case, take your time. I want to see the premiere perfect versions of these games. I am all for that.
And it does famously include 3 and Knuckles, which is almost always missing from these collections.
Right, except for on Steam and PC.
Yes. Sonic Colors is being remastered, also releasing 2022. Sonic Colors kind of flew under the radar, but people liked it when it came out. I remember people being like, finally, a good Sonic game. Like, they were frantic.
Wasn't it exclusive to either Wii or Wii U or something?
It was on the Wii.
Okay.
I believe I had. Let me turn around. I think I own it. I don't know. I've never played it. But people liked it a lot.
Yeah, I remember it was very well received.
And then they showed
Sonic and Minecraft and...
just junk for the rest of basically
There's
nothing.
Some merchandise, Sonic and other games. I think he was in Fortnite.
Cool.
He was being added to some Olympics game, only it was like a realistic looking Olympics game, and it's just some dude in a Sonic costume.
Yeah, the rest of it was weird. And then they're like, oh, one more thing. They did the Nintendo thing, and they just showed like Sonic running through a forest. And you're like, okay. And I thought they accidentally ended the stream because it was like a second and a half long, and then the stream ends, and you can still hear noise in the background.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened? My stream messed up. That was it. That was all they showed. Thankfully, Dragon Quest had their 35th anniversary event.
I stayed up late to watch it. It fucked up my sleep schedule for the rest of the week.
Which includes Dragon Quest Keshi Keshi?
Yeah, Dragon Quest Keshi Keshi. Which is a
match 3 puzzle game.
Yeah, and they had these adorable little erasers because the game is all about little eraser versions. Keshi Keshi just means eraser. So it's little eraser versions of Dragon Quest characters and monsters fighting each other in a match 3 puzzle game.
Americans may know them by the Mattel-adopted Muscle Toys.
No, not like that. Like actual erase things.
Right.
Like a pencil eraser.
The Japanese version of the Kinnikuman Keshi toys are what were adopted into Muscles.
That's true.
Yeah, but Keshi is just that's their general reference term to this is an eraser toy.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a toy. It looks like a pencil eraser. It looks like the kind that you would get at an office supply store, just the cutesy versions. Yeah. And it's adorable.
Yes.
I want it so bad.
Also, these aren't the first Dragon Quest Keshis that have come out. There are other ones that I found on eBay.
But those were the little figure style. These are just like flat eraser style.
They weren't quite. They were a little more toyetic.
Right, yeah.
Dragon Quest X version 5.5 and version 6 coming this year.
It's pronounced 10.
Pardon me, Dragon Quest 10 version 5. Sorry.
It's not like Mega Man.
5.5 and 6 coming this year. No plans for worldwide release. Thanks.
Oh, man. Them having no plans for worldwide release on the screen the whole time they're talking about it. And those pig fuckers. Oh, so angry.
Also, Dragon Quest 10 offline announced, which is basically a new game using a chibi art style, and it retells the events of Dragon Quest 10.
Right.
Which was confirmed for Japan 2022. No international release confirmed.
No, but they didn't rule it out like they did for
They didn't
Dragon
put
Quest
a big
10.
flashing red thing on the screen that said not coming to America no matter what you do.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that we get Dragon Quest 10 offline. It looks neat. It looks more like an action RPG than a traditional RPG. So that's going to be weird. But I am interested to see what it is.
Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake, which is DQ3 redone in the Octopath style by the Octopath team, which I'm excited about from the outset because I love the Octopath engine. I didn't love Octopath Traveler, but even at the time we were both saying, please, please, please make more old school JRPGs, remakes, whatever in this engine. It's so cool.
Yes. And it's getting a worldwide simultaneous release. The first time any Dragon Quest has been announced with a worldwide simultaneous release, which is very exciting, considering a lot of Dragon Quest games still don't come out over here. But they did not say a platform or date. And when the host asked Yuji Horii for the platform, he started to say something, and an off-screen producer started blowing a whistle at him.
Like a gym teacher whistle?
Like a gym teacher whistle.
They're like, okay, who's got the Yuji Horii whistle? You got it? Okay.
Yeah. They showed the guy early in the episode, and they're like, and this producer is here, and they like pan the camera over, and the guy's like trying to hide from the camera, and Yuji Horii says, yes, he's here to make sure I don't say something I'm not supposed to say.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest Treasures spinoff with Eric and Mia from DQ11, which is, quote, not a traditional RPG, also getting worldwide simultaneous release, platform and date to be determined. This seems a little more not
it looked like maybe an action adventure kind of game, maybe like almost Zelda-y, but it looked neat. I'll see what it is.
And then finally, Dragon Quest 12, The Flames of Fate. We only got a teaser for it, aiming for worldwide simultaneous release, platform and date to be determined.
Now they did say that they think it should be a little more adult-oriented than previous Dragon Quest games. Presumably, they just mean darker and not like...
Dragon Quest 11 was pretty fucking dark.
Yeah. Well, just
Dragon
the teaser of
Quest
this makes it
V
look
was
very
fucking
dark.
So many of these games are so dark.
And then also, Dragon Quest V has some really dark points too.
They just like look cute, but they're fucking dark as
That's
shit.
true. Oh yeah, Dragon Quest VII has some really dark moments. Anyway, and then also they said that they may be changing the command style battle system, which has got some people on the internet up in arms. I am willing to wait it out and see what happens, because they also said this about Dragon Quest 9 and 11, and then they backpedaled when Japan flipped their shit. So we'll see what happens by the time it comes out, because they won't even say what era of platforms it will be on at this point. It is sometime in the future, should be simultaneous worldwide. That's what we're working on. But yeah, we'll see.
Moving on, Sony is training AI to play against players.
Presumably for people who can't find an online opponent or something.
Right. I mean, we've had AI, we've had bots before.
Yes.
I don't think we know what's different about their bots, but they're training bots.
My guess is that it is a trained AI rather than a pre-programmed AI.
Right.
So
that would be my guess as well.
Interesting. We'll see what it looks like when it's actually put into production.
Billy Mitchell watch. Billy Mitchell is still suing people. Right now he's suing Pac-Man world record holders.
That's
correct?
true. That is correct.
Cool. Sega's porting Yakuza 0 to Amazon Luma for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess they're still going to try to do that. So if you're a Luma person, then you got a good Yakuza game to play.
I forgot Luna existed. And the last time I tried Luna, it ran like shit. So hopefully
it wasn't great for me either. Sony's survey reveals that 41% of PS4, PS5 console owners are women, up from 18% during the PS1 era.
That's some good progress.
So this is good, positive headway away from video games being a boys' club, which is still very far away. But we have a goal. At least
we've been making baby steps for a long time, and it's good to see some progress.
Yeah. 505 Games leaked that a new Bloodstained is in development. Supposedly a sequel, a full sequel, not one of the little
they didn't say sequel. They said new version.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true.
So the assumption is that they meant a new game, but it could just be a revision for all we know.
Yeah. Amid a rush of new rumors pointing at a potential pre-E3 reveal, Amazon Mexico has a placeholder listing up for a new Nintendo Switch Pro. Where is the old Nintendo Switch Pro, you may be asking? Killed on the design floor, apparently. I don't fucking know. Why are you putting new in the name? Yeah. Please be wrong.
Yeah, I really hope it's not named new. We still have problems with people wondering about used new Nintendo 3DS. It's such a pain.
But I honestly, it's more Switch Pro rumors. I really don't feel like with the shortages going on right now, I think at best they might announce it for holiday 2022 is the best we're going to get.
The rumor that is floating around right now is that NVIDIA already has their Tegra 2 ready, because they're also wanting to have it ready for the next model of Shield, which is supposed to come out either late this year or early next year, and that it has been in production long enough that they are supposedly rolling out by September of this year is the earliest I've seen the rumors point at.
I mean, even if they have them already manufactured, we can't even fucking ship shit across the world successfully right now. Like, I don't know. And as reserved as Nintendo always is, I don't see them pulling the trigger on something this major
with less than 4 months out. I just don't see it happening, especially since a lot of developers have been saying we haven't been given dev kits for any kind of new Switch yet. Certainly not in the capacity that we would be able to talk about a project for it yet. That's not to say no developers have received them, but enough have not received them that I have a hard time really believing all these rumors.
I suspect that the direct we get surrounding E3 is going to seem oddly anemic because they've pushed the Switch Pro to next year at the earliest. That's my professional opinion, but we'll see. I'm always wrong anyway.
By the time this episode goes out to non-patrons, E3 will have happened, and we could both look like wrongies. So
Okay.
who knows?
Well, Pablo, if you can edit it so we sound
Way smarter.
premonitory in in our assessments there, that'd be great. Terra Onion announced the Super HD System 3 Pro, which, in addition to being a tremendously long name, also the enhanced version of the Super SD System 3,
Right.
Which is just like previously, it has the optical disc emulator, flash card, RGB adapter for the PC Engine and Super Graphics, but the new model includes built-in HDMI upscaling to 480p and 720p, and the ability to play Super Graphics games on any model PC Engine or Core Graphics.
That's pretty big.
So for about $300, you can basically get the ultimate upgrade for a PC Engine or Core Graphics all rolled into one device, which is not cheap, but it's also doing a lot.
Yes.
If you for whatever reason maybe picked up a PC Engine back when they were like $40-50 on eBay probably a million years ago, and it's been sitting around and you've been like, I need to do something with it, then $300 and you're ready to go on your HD TV with everything you need. So
that's a nice upgrade there.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the topic at hand. This week we are talking the Guardian Legend, also known as Gartic Gaiden in Japan.
Yep.
As far as synopsis, it's basically a you got your shmup in my Zelda clone, you got your Zelda clone in my shmup type Reese's situation that we're dealing with.
It's a professional Reese's situation.
Often referred to as being of the genre that is called multi-genre, which just always makes me think of Multi-Ball from Futurama. Release info. This released in Japan on February 5th, 1988, where it was published by IRIM North America. April 1989, where it was published by Broderbund, who also published Battle of Olympus in America. So I always thought the same company made both games.
No.
Because I just looked at the logo on the thing. Europe in 1990, where it was published by Nintendo, and it was developed by Compile, who was known for Gartic, Aleste, Xanac, Golvelius, Blazing Lasers, Puyo Puyo, and other games that Americans basically didn't hear about ever.
Right, that's true. But generally, an excellent catalog, especially up to this point.
Right, for sure. First encounters, I don't remember when we got this game in my house, but I do remember my brother playing it incessantly.
Yeah.
He adored Zelda, spent many, many school nights secretly playing Zelda all night long. So when this game came out that was like, hey, Zelda, but there's also shmup in it, it was right up his alley. Nice. He played it quite a bit. I played it quite a bit. It was always a little too hard and complicated for me to do much other than just run around and shoot things and have a good time. But for whatever reason, I do vividly remember we took a family trip to Amarillo, which is in the far north of Texas, in the mid-90s to visit my uncle. And my brother took his Nintendo and the game to Amarillo with us.
Nice.
And I have these very vivid memories of just sitting for hours and watching him play Guardian Legend when we should be enjoying our vacation.
I took my Super NES to my aunt's house in Houston one year to play Final Fantasy IV and Top Gear.
It was so I can say the reason we've waited so long to do this episode is that this game is so personally important to me that I never wanted to cover it because I was like, it's too big. It's not a very big game, but in my head it was massive.
Yeah.
And I like to think that I'm maybe not pretty good. I like to think that I make an attempt to view games through modern lenses and look at them in a way that is not purely fueled by nostalgia and going, oh, this is great because I had it growing up. But I cannot do that with the Guardian Legend. So I'll go ahead and tell you up front, everything about it, perfect 10 out of 10, amazing game, does no wrong.
Obviously.
100% based on my nostalgia for it. I can't stop myself.
Yeah, that's fair. I first ran into the game at a friend's house. Probably would have been 1990, maybe 91. And I remember just being enamored by it. Just the idea of this cross gameplay between the shmup and the Zelda game. and just
Right.
thinking that it was incredible. And then when I left, I did not remember the name of the game at all. And I asked him about it later, and he did not remember because he had rented it and he had no idea what it was. And I spent like a couple of years trying to find it. And then when the local video store started clearing out games, they dropped NES rentals down to a quarter. So I just started, renting several of them a week. And
Right.
and I saw it up there, and I had walked right past it many times because its cover is stupid, and
It is.
it's really
The American
dumb.
cover is very dumb.
Yeah, but it was published by Broderbund, who had also put out Legacy of the Wizard, which I loved, which I had also learned about from the same friend. So I decided, I'll go ahead and grab that. And I got it home, and it was finally that fucking game. And for years I had told myself before I finally found it again that it must be a Lolo spinoff, because there's that giant Lolo character you see every now and then. But it's not
Yes.
that. It's completely unrelated to that. But no, once I finally did find it, I hunted it down. I finally found it at a Funcoland or something when it was still under $10. And just absolutely love the game. It's been one of my favorite go-tos because I have always been a fan of that cross-genre gameplay. Almost any
It's
two
called
genres. you put
multi-genre,
together.
Saturn?
I'm sorry,
Multi-genre?
My bad. Anytime that genres are mixed up, gameplay genres are mixed up, I am instantly a big fan of a game, even if it's the dumbest genres. Like it could
Like
be
Odama.
what's that?
Like Odama.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to mix pinball and dating sim, I'm going to at least give it a try.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just I'm all for it.
Let's talk development. There's not a lot of info available for the Guardian Legend.
No.
Most of what I have is Hardcore Gaming 101 and what they reported on the game. Which they report it was developed as, quote, a sequel / spinoff to the MSX game Gartic.
Makes sense.
However, the developers, the name was established before the game even began production, and the actual design and even story has nothing to do with Gartic.
Sounds right.
Gartic was a relatively simplistic, non-scrolling shooter.
Right. Well, as
which
we
is-
mentioned last episode, sequels meant nothing back then. So
Right. The only connection is the use of Gardic's theme music as the password tune.
And the Landers.
There was also some discussion about changing Miria to a man for the English release, as they weren't sure how those audiences would respond to a female protagonist in the English release.
Well, in 1989, there was no response, but apparently in more recent years, there are suddenly responses to female protagonists.
Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah.
There you go. It does seem, because they did Govelius as well, which is often cited as kind of more of a proto Guardian Legend than Gartic was.
Right.
But I can definitely see threads of Gartic and Zanuck and Golvelius all going into
Right.
What became the Guardian Legend.
Definitely, yeah.
And as you mentioned, the Japanese cover art has a fantastic depiction of Miria. It's by Naoki Kato, while the U.S. version just literally rips off the poster for a movie called Creature.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, you remember, it still happens occasionally as an adult, but when you're a kid and sometimes you see some piece of art and it stirs something within you,
Right,
you know,
right.
there's just like this feeling of like, this is like amazing. You know, that very awestruck feeling.
Right.
The cover art for the U.S. Guardian Legend did that for me. I still love those dumb eyes over that like lightning blasted
Right.
alien landscape. I love that picture. I remember being a kid and I would just sit and stare at the cartridge. I vividly remember doing this.
Meanwhile, I walked past it at the rental store many times thinking, that looks stupid.
Like, that's dumb. Despite being designed as a sequel to Gartic, Guardian Legend, and Gartic Gaiden is owned by Irem.
Yeah.
The Lander characters also appear in Zanuck and Gartic, as you said. It's unknown if Compile Heart still holds any ownership over any parts of the game, or if they even give a shit about it at all, because
Right.
they've very much moved on.
Oh, yeah.
So there could be, we don't know, but there could be some tricky legal ground of any potential future re-releases or remakes of the Guardian Legend.
And I could definitely explain why it hasn't been re-released, because Irem is kind of offered up most of their classic library.
Yeah.
So
let's talk story. This is ripped straight from the manual.
I see that.
And it says, long ago I just screenshotted the manual. In a distant galaxy, an alien race sent a huge world called Naju hurtling toward Earth, loaded with a cargo of mysterious life forms. Why? During the long journey, these creatures have multiplied and become increasingly evil, and now Naju teems with evil. However, deep within this complex globe are self-destruct mechanisms that can be activated to destroy it before it reaches Earth. Now you must battle your way deep within Naju's labyrinths to destroy the alien world. You are the Guardian of Earth, and your saga will become the Guardian Legend.
I have many questions.
Well, hold on, because I want to say... This was the coolest, most hardcore shit when I was a kid. I was like, you gotta blow up a fucking planet? Like, it was insane to me. You can go ahead with your questions.
Yeah,
now.
well, first of all, why did they send an entire fucking world instead of like any kind of spacecraft? Second, is it a world or is it a globe? We've got some contradiction already. Third, if they created this, why did they create self-destruct mechanisms in it? And 4, why was it sent with evil on board?
All great questions. Let's move on to graphics and sound. It was composed by Masatomo Miyamoto and Takeshi Santo, both longtime Compile composers. They worked on basically all of Compile's stuff.
Right.
And I do want to say that the soundtrack here is just stellar.
Yes.
The title theme and the Labyrinth theme are two major standouts for me. But I love all of the music in this game. It is very good, very well done. The Advantage famously covered the Corridor theme from the game, which is a great version and also a great instrumental NES band. If you're not NES, but mostly NES stuff, actually.
I'll have to look that up.
That you should go listen to. Graphically, it's the game looks very good. There's a lot of sprite variety. There are many different corridor backgrounds. The labyrinth itself does get a little kind of samey. They do sort of go for this very sparse Spartan sci-fi aesthetic, which is usually just a color of wall and a color of plain ground.
Right.
It's missing any kind of filler objects. Like in Zelda, you had, there's bushes and little rivers and stuff and little bridges that make it look like a world.
Yeah, we were talking last episode about how I'm usually pretty good at mapping stuff out in my mind, and I was constantly lost playing Guardian Legends.
You will get turned around.
Yeah,
you will get turned around in a labyrinth.
Yeah, until you write out maps, you will pretty easily get lost.
Now, thankfully, the map system is very useful, which we'll get into. I do want to say the art direction here is some of my absolute favorite on the NES. It's this weird sort of like H.R. Geiger-esque machine organic material laid over the top of this kind of underwater aesthetic throughout the whole game. It's like a weird like Echo the Dolphin mashed up with Life Force. It's very strange. It does feel very alien.
Right.
And I know it's just my nostalgia talking.
Yeah.
But how creepy and weird the visual aesthetic fed into how confusing the labyrinth was to me when I was little, if that makes any kind of sense.
Right. And again, because there is some sameness in the background of the labyrinth area, when you do get these well-designed, really detailed graphical elements, it definitely stands out too.
Yeah, you do get to appreciate them. But I've always loved the visual and enemy design of this game, even if I don't exactly love the specific like room design of it. Let's do gameplay.
Yeah.
It is famously a multi-genre. Yeah. As we all well know, the well-known multi-genre genre. It has two different types of gameplay. Right. We're going to talk about them separately.
That makes sense.
So first up, you have the corridors or the dungeons. The game starts in what is known as a dungeon segment, which is a vertical shmup. It's just a regular vertical shmup. There's health power-ups you can pick up. There's enemies that scrolls up to a big eyeball mass that is the first boss, and you play through that, and then you're dumped into the labyrinth, which is a screen-by-screen, very Zelda-esque feeling top-down adventure game.
Right. And the shmup segments are compile shmups, so they are of good quality. It's not just like some shoehorned in half-assed shmup on top of a Zelda game. It's good quality shmup levels when you do play that area.
Right. Now, the dungeons, the corridors themselves, they're really the, in air quotes, real game.
Right.
And the overworld that you're navigating, most of that is centered around making your way to the next corridor.
Right.
That's usually what you're all, which is really very Zelda 1-esque, where most of your time is you navigating the overworld to get to that next dungeon.
Right.
Dungeon levels that share a labyrinth zone often share the same visual aesthetic, but they will, so you'll have usually two corridors in a labyrinth zone.
Right.
So you'll enter a labyrinth zone. It's a different color than the previous zone, so you know you're somewhere else.
Right.
And there's two corridors there, and those two corridors will have the same visual aesthetic, but they'll have different enemy placements and often be at different speeds. Some of these corridors are very slow, and some are so breakneck fast that the level's over in 3 minutes and you couldn't get any power-ups the whole time. But it's enough that it allows them to reuse the same visuals in multiple corridors without it feeling old, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I do like the actual shmup gameplay in the dungeons in Guardian Legend, because the shmup gameplay here is very power-up heavy. So a player can feasibly take lots of hits, and as long as you're quick with picking up power-ups, you can still easily complete most levels, barring the boss difficulty, which we will get to separately. But the levels themselves, as long as you're quick on your feet, you're usually okay, because there are a lot of health power-ups.
Yeah.
The game very much wants you to, and chip power-ups, the game very much wants you to use your resources, because it will constantly be replenishing them. And I like that tension that it has.
Yeah, that's I always prefer shmups that have a bunch of power-ups, and that's something that Compile is usually good at. And I am always a fan of a shmup that lets me recover my health on the fly. That's uncommon, but it's so nice.
And it does stand in pretty stark opposition to most shmups, even of the era, where things like repeated health pickups are either a rarity or just don't exist.
Exactly.
Usually in shmups, then and really now, most of the time you could take a hit, maybe two if you had some kind of shield power up or something, but that's it. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I do like that it is what ties the overworld to the shmup sections, is that as you're getting more powerful in the overworld, that immediately and directly translates to the shmup levels, which they kind of had to design in a more dynamic way than just, all right, here's our set enemies, don't get hit once. Because you're going to have to go into them with a health bar that you're constantly making bigger.
Right.
Most of the bosses in the dungeon segments are reused multiple times for different corridors. Often they're color swapped.
Yeah.
We will jump through the bosses. The first boss is just a big mass of eyeballs. He's unnamed within the game. Really one of the creepier looking bosses.
Right.
Then you have Fleepa.
I love all these names.
Who I just called Flipper when I was a kid. He's a big, giant, like metallic looking fish thing that bounces around the screen and shoots little shrimps at you. And you'll notice a common theme among bosses in the Guardian Legend is that they spit out smaller things that will give you power-ups. So the same gameplay loop can be applied to bosses as long as you're hitting their add-on enemies. You can kind of power your way and brute force your way through some boss encounters this way. You have Optimon, who is far and away the hardest boss in the game. He's a big mass of seaweed that shoots these long strands of seaweed. Now, when you get I believe it's the powered up fireball, you can destroy the seaweed. So you fight Optimon a couple times. I think 3 times total. You fight a green one, a blue one, and then there's one in the boss rush at the end of the game. And green Optimon I think is the first one, and he's so hard. He's because you don't have the tools to destroy his seaweed, and his seaweed are these very long projectiles that you're constantly bashing into. You have Bombarder, who is just a big robot thing. His bottom half detaches. You have Clawbot, who is very similar to Bombarder. Actually, he might be the one who his bottom detaches, but they're just robots. You have Zib-Zub and Crawdaddy, which are both a squid and a crawdad. You have Terramute, who I want to say is the I didn't write down which ones they were. I want to say he's the dragon-looking boss. You have Igor and Grim, which are both creepy-looking faces that shoot eyeballs and lasers, respectively. Grim is probably the easiest boss in the game because you can just sit at the bottom of the screen and you eventually get projectiles that destroy even boss projectiles. So you can just sit there and fire up at him and he just dies as long as you keep getting health power-ups when they drop. And then you have It, not the clown, but that's the name of the last boss. And he's just a big creepy eyeball thing with big claws. The bosses are not the most strikingly gameplay-wise designed bosses, and their difficulty varies wildly. Some of them are extremely hard, and other ones are so easy that you kind of wonder if they even play tested it.
But they do look creepy.
Yeah, they're all very visually striking, interesting looking bosses.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember their names at all, so I'm having to look at pictures of all of them as you're saying this. And
was Terramute the dragon? Did I get that right?
Yes, you did get that correct.
Yeah. And there is a corridor rush version of the game. So for players who want a very different and truncated experience, the game offers a corridor rush mode that it tells you the code for at the end of the game, which is the password is TGL. And in addition to cutting out the labyrinth entirely, it awards power-ups and weapons found in the labyrinth at the end of each level, since otherwise you would have no way to obtain them. So it just turns the game into a straight compile shmup, which is good. It's still a very fun, very competently designed shmup,
right?
Entirely within this kind of action-adventure game.
Yeah.
Let's talk Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Outside of the dungeon segments, TGL is an action-adventure game, often compared to Zelda.
Yes.
After the intro level, again, you're dumped in the Labyrinth. You're given a little bit of story, which is basically what was from the manual, and then they just let you loose.
Yes.
You do have one big main area, which is kind of an interesting design choice, like compared to Zelda, where there really isn't like a main hub zone.
No.
It's this whole overworld.
Not until the later Zelda games, anyway.
Yeah, Guardian Legend is very much, this is your hub,
right?
And it connects to all the other zones. So you start in Area 0. Each area after Area 0 is locked with a specific key that you have to obtain, obviously within the previous corridors.
All right.
And the doors to the dungeon levels, which are in the game called corridors, often have a specific trick to open them, and several times throughout the game, the player will have to find and talk to the ever-helpful shopkeeper and password dispenser, Blue Lander, and he'll give you tips on how to unseal gates. He's the only NPC that you ever talk to.
Right.
And he fills every NPC role required by the game. It's just him the whole time.
I was so sure he was Lolo when I first encountered him.
And he is also the one that, according to the in-game text, sealed the corridors. Because so it gives you these kind of mini quests where you'll enter a corridor and you have to do a thing in every corridor room, except for I think one of them, to open the door. And sometimes it's just fire your weapon, stand in the corner, fire a special weapon. It's simple stuff. But some of them you don't know, and other ones you have to talk to him to kind of get the tip. Like one of them you have to enter the room like 5 times and then it'll open. Another one you just have to go talk to him over and over and over again until he's like, oh yeah, I sealed that one real good. Let me open it. Yeah. Which is pretty obtuse.
Yeah, there was a lot of obtusity when it came to that. That was until I found, I don't remember if it was GamePro or Game Players or somebody had just how to get through the entire game from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I was pretty stumped for a while there.
Most of the corridors, if you just walk in the room and start mashing buttons and shooting your weapon and walking in circles, it'll just kind of open.
Right.
because it's like, oh, shoot the corner of the room or
Right.
whatever. It's simple stuff. He does have a shop. It's found several times throughout the game. It's also very similar to the shops in Zelda. He has 3 items. Usually only one of them is worth a shit, and the other
Right.
2 are things you can get everywhere else
Yeah.
and don't spend your chips on it.
Right.
And while traversing the labyrinth, there will occasionally be a mini-boss encounter. They're peppered throughout the game, and while they are optional because they don't give the players keys to corridors, they usually drop upgrades and weapons.
Right.
And they're very much mini bosses. They're less of an
Yeah.
ordeal than the full dungeon bosses. They have substantially less health, and they
Right.
kind of range from laughably easy to intensely difficult.
Yeah.
Just like the
The
dungeon
actual
bosses do.
Yeah.
There is also a map with highlighted corridor locations on the pause screen, which
Yes.
is invaluable
Yes.
whenever trying to traverse things.
Because
again, the
otherwise,
game-
you will inevitably
looks very
think that
samey.
every screen is the same.
Yeah. Let's talk items. As far as pickups, there are energy tanks, which maxes out your health. You have power hearts, which partially refill your energy.
Right.
And then you have blue and red chips, which give 20 and 50 power chips, respectively.
Right.
As far as permanent upgrades, you have little tiny blue landers. He left his own little merchandise all over the place.
Oh, it's not his children?
It might be. I don't know. It raises maximum energy and restores some energy. Achieving a certain score thresholds also award maximum energy, which is I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Where they make it so that combat is it's not gaining levels, but there's a reason to constantly be in combat.
Yeah, there's some reward for performing well.
Right. Although if you roll the score over, the game soft locks. So don't
Oh.
don't
good
do
to
that.
know.
You got to reach a score of like 9,999,999. You know, so it's
That's
crazy. But
unlikely.
you know, if you love grinding, maybe take it easy.
I do love grinding.
You have Redlanders, which raises your maximum power chips and improves your gun. So as your maximum chip count, which is your money, increases, your gun becomes wider and more powerful. But the weapon power will degrade as you get low on chips. So this creates a sort of balancing act because when you use your secondary weapons, of which there are a dozen, they drain your chips with
Right.
every shot. So you get this thing where you're kind of bouncing between your main gun being powered up and using sub-weapons, which that balancing act sort of disappears later in the game because eventually you have such a huge amount of chips
Yeah.
that you can
It
just
doesn't even
constantly
matter.
use
Right.
your sub-weapons. Yeah. You have the gun and the shield, both of which raise your attack and defense, respectively. Frustratingly, the gun only goes to a max of 3, and the shield goes to a max of 5, I think.
Yeah. that
So
sounds right.
you'll always be looking for those last 2 gun upgrades, and they're not in the game. You'd be like, I have 5 shields. Where are the guns?
I just want it to even out.
There's also a kind of hidden power up where whenever you max out the defense, Miria walks faster.
I never noticed that.
Yep. There are 12 weapons in the game. You can upgrade them to a maximum level of 3 by finding multiple versions of them. Again, they do drain your power chips. I don't want to list all dozen weapons. I'm just going to talk about my favorite ones.
The good ones.
My most favorite is the cutter laser. So you can hold down the button, and it is an auto fire game. You can just hold down the shoot button. You don't got to mash it. So you can hold down your fire button, then hold down your cutter laser button, and it sticks these lightsabers out the left and right of you. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I play through almost the whole game with that. I kill bosses with it. It's just everything. It's my all-purpose. You have the fireball, which can destroy enemy projectiles. At level 3, I believe it destroys all projectiles, regardless, and does a ton of damage. But a lot of people play with the fireball at level 2 permanently. Because when you're walking through the labyrinth, the fireball at level 2 goes at the same speed as Miria walks. So you can enter a screen, hit a fireball, and then have like a force field as you walk through to the next screen.
Nice.
There's also the hyper laser, which I just love because it's just a big fucking laser, which that's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. And I have tips because I've played this game a lot.
You have.
I will say my favorite tip, because eventually you have like, I think your max chips is like 4,000. It's a crazy number, 6,000. It's thousands of chips, and you'll drain your chips constantly. And as you're going through the world, you'll find little blocks you can destroy, and sometimes they'll have a blue chip under them. if you can set it so that the blue chip has 2 blocks blocking you from walking on top of it, but you can kind of walk toward it diagonally, but be stopped on the blocks that are around it.
Right.
Then you can just hold it there, and it'll refill your chips and your health all the way.
Nice.
Which I know it was a very confusing description.
Yeah.
But you can figure it out. Also, if you stand on the boss tiles that pop up to lock you into the mini boss areas in the labyrinth, then when the mini boss shows up, you can just walk off of it off the screen if you don't want to fight that thing. Which is how I still play the game, because I don't remember which mini boss is where, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to fucking fight that thing. It's hard. I'll come back later. Also, just in general, you should clear the labyrinth zones before you tackle the corridors, because the labyrinth always has upgrades.
Right.
And some of the areas will throw you straight into corridors the second you walk into it. I think Area 8 does that, and I want to say 6 and 8 throw you into it immediately. And just go clear the corridors, because you'll have an easier time.
Oh yeah.
The game does famously have a password system that it was criticized for, because it's the same one that Battle of Olympus uses, which is like 75 characters long, and it uses every alphanumeric ever invented ever in the world. So it's long and it's annoying.
But can it be manipulated?
There people have released password manipulation things in the past.
So somebody's figured out the algorithm for it.
Someone has figured some stuff out for sure. I personally, I've learned this about myself. I like password games because I'm really bad about changing devices I'm playing on. And I played Guardian Legend on my GPD-XD. I played it on my actual NES. I played it on my Wii, and I played it on my PC. And I just took a picture of the password screen with my phone every time I was done playing, and I moved back and forth constantly.
Nice.
I loved it. It was the future Saturn.
It's like a proto Switch.
Yeah. Difficulty wise, it is pretty uneven.
Yes.
Again, Igor's a joke. Optimon is nearly impossible in his early green form. You can grind,
Yes,
but only to an extent.
I know.
You can explore the labyrinth to find extra items and retry areas as much as you like. It just starts you at the last blue lander you spoke to whenever you die, which is pretty gracious of an NES game.
I know. I found my way there frequently.
But even when you explore the labyrinth, you can't break sequence. You're pretty locked into what you have available. You might go get stuff you missed, but if you're getting everything as you go along, then it's one of those things. Now I will say, many of the corridors, not even some, but many of the corridors are optional. So if you're following a guide and you're having a hard time with the corridor and you see what it's going to give you, if it's not a key, you can really skip it and come back later.
Right.
I think Green Optimon you can skip if I'm remembering correctly, but I'm not sure now. I don't totally remember. But several of them you can skip if you're like, this is too hard. I can't do this right now. Go do the next zone. Get the key. Oftentimes you'll see 2 corridors in a zone. One corridor is very easy, has a very easy boss, and the other one's very difficult. So you can just, hopefully the easy one has the key and move on. As far as reception, I have seen the Guardian Legend appear in basically every NES hidden gems list ever written by human beings.
Right, that sounds about right.
All of them, all of the time, want to list Guardian Legend. It's right up there with like Metal Storm as far as like hidden NES gems, which doesn't feel hidden to me, obviously.
Right.
So I'm familiar with the game.
It's definitely become less hidden over the years.
It has.
Yeah.
Between like me and my brother, it's become a joke of like, the Guardian Legend, the hidden gem and no one knows about. Review wise, the game did kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
At EGM, it got a 6, a 5, a 6, and a 7. They called it a Blaster Master clone.
It's basically the same game.
Which, man.
Pretty much the same game.
Famitsu gave it a 30 out of 40.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good for Famitsu.
It's good. It's a positive score.
Yeah.
Game Informer gave it a 7.75 out of 10. It did reach number 9 on Nintendo Power's Top 30 NES Games feature in issue 8 and stayed there for about a year.
I didn't even realize Game Informer was already reviewing shit by the time this came out.
I thought the same thing. I'm guessing they may have retroactively reviewed it when it hit Virtual Console or something.
Yeah.
But I always love these scores. 7.75. We ran it through the Mathulator, and it got a 7.75.
It's definitely better than a 7.5, but it's not quite 8
can
yet.
you get Mathatron on the phone? I don't know what to score to give this. And okay, 7.638 repeating is what this one gets. I will say, since its release and its reception by the press, it has become more fondly remembered.
Right. It's kind of a cult classic as far as the NES goes.
I did notice no one during critical discourse of magazines and reviewers at the time of the game's launch, I could not find a single person that compared it to Zelda at all.
Yeah. Well,
so I wonder how much of that is just us not remembering a lot of games it would have been compared to, and just really remembering Zelda, and then going and playing this and going, oh, it's kind of like Zelda in the overworld.
Possibly. I mean, it definitely has. For me, it always felt kind of like the gameplay of Crystalis on a Zelda style map.
Yeah, I could see that as well. Absolutely.
And so I can understand that by the time it came out, maybe there was something else to compare it to, but I don't know. Maybe the reviewers didn't get past the introductory stage.
I don't know. I remember being a kid, that intro stage was hard.
Yeah.
It's not so much now, but
No.
you know.
And it's not easy, but it's not so hard that a reviewer shouldn't be able to get past it.
So I will say it's I can see why it ended up on so many hidden gems lists.
Right.
Now it's kind of a trope, but at the time it reviewed kind of meh. No one really compared it to Zelda. Like anytime you say, "Oh, it's like Zelda,"
Suddenly
Zelda
it gets
fans go out
attention.
and see if you're right or not.
Right.
Yeah, it gets attention.
But even then, I could still see it on some hidden gems lists even today, because while it has ended up on every hidden gems list, if people aren't looking for that, it's not on the NES games you must play list. So
And I don't believe it's had a release on any virtual consoles. I don't think it's anywhere except on the NES.
Yeah.
I think it's still stranded there.
because like we were saying earlier, we don't even definitively know if there's a rights issue or
Who
not.
owns it? Yeah.
Because again, Irem has put out most of their games on almost everything. So I'm confused why they wouldn't have re-released this over the years unless there is some conflict there.
Yeah. As far as legacy, Sigma Star Saga released in 2005 and drew a lot of comparisons to the Guardian Legend. It's completely unrelated in all regards, but it was an adventure style game mixed with kind of shmup elements.
And that was on GBA,
also,
right?
That was on GBA. Also, it released. It was like combo released with that game, Rebel Star.
I don't
That like XCOM like strategy game on GBA.
I don't remember that one at all.
I think I have a little more GBA memory than most human beings. So that might be it.
I had never heard of Sigma Star Saga until you pointed it out to me a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one went completely past my radar. Never even popped up.
I have been following the Guardian Legend fan community since I had internet.
Nice.
And there have been many, many, many fan remakes and sequels over the years. Many are still active. None of them have achieved anything even close to an actual commercial release.
Right.
For years, the best thing we had was there was an artist online that had redone all of the Guardian Legend assets and did mock-ups. Basically made a game design Bible for a theoretical remake of the game. And then never made, it was just like in his resume. Right. And I would go to that site and just stare at the art for years. I can't find it now. I don't know what it's called. There is a Guardian Legend fan site. It is mostly people in the forums making their own little fan versions of Guardian Legend. They vary in quality. There's not been a ton in the way of like ROM hacks, except for one to remove the annoying bullet sound, which you hear literally nonstop while you play the game, which I love, but I could see that it's annoying.
Oh yeah.
So it's
I got so desensitized to that by almost every NES game.
Yeah.
But thinking back on it, yeah, I definitely see where you're going.
So it's unfortunate. It does seem to have a lot of love. People haven't forgotten it. But no one
Yeah, I would
that
say
has the ability to do anything is paying attention to
I'd say that people haven't forgotten it, but there's still a lot of people who haven't discovered it yet.
Yeah.
So
I'm speaking of Blaster Master, I'm upset that Blaster Master is continuing on and the Guardian Legend is dead.
I think Blaster Master sold a bit better.
Whatever. As far as final thoughts, I absolutely adore this game.
Mm-hmm.
This is a wonderful game from top to bottom. It embodies everything NES to me. This is a quintessential NES game to me, more than basically any other NES game. It's got kind of some weird design stuff. It's a little samey. It reuses a lot of assets. It's got sort of uneven difficulty.
Yes.
But it's just so inventive and fun and interesting and fun to look at and fun to listen to and fun to play that I just have so much love for it that I cannot help but recommend it. And I beat it on a Nintendo, so it's possible.
Nice.
It's not... I feel like it's kind of middle of the road as far as like NES difficulty goes.
Yeah.
If your upper echelon is like Ninja Gaiden and the bottom of the barrel is like Mickey Mousecapades, Guardian Legend kind of hits it in the middle where it's
Mickey
like...
Mousecapades can get really hard, man.
It kind of hits it in the middle where it's... All right, we'll put Kirby on the bottom.
Okay, there we go.
Although Kirby gets kind of hard too, but it's you get my point. It kind of hits it in the middle where it's like you're gonna bang your head against some of these portions because they're tough.
Yeah,
but
there's some frustrating
parts.
parts.
It's not, I don't think, unreasonably difficult anywhere. It's a little obtuse. It's a little tough from time to time, but not any more than you would expect from the NES just in general.
Yeah, if you know where to go and what path to take, it's manageable. But going into it blind, it's rough, man. There are some parts that feel like a real challenge to get past.
Doing it blind, you kind of have to treat it, though, and this is true of so many older games.
Right.
If you're going to go into the game blind, then you really need to treat it as this is a game I'm playing for several weeks as I slowly discover things.
Right.
The same way that you would play other NES games if
yeah.
you didn't have like Nintendo Power
Right.
for it or whatever. I would highly recommend a guide. There are really, I think, 2 or 3 portions of the game that I'm like, yeah, you really don't have any idea what to do. It kind of needs to tell you.
Right.
But even then, the guides are pretty sparse. It's usually in I like games like this where your guide can just consist of a map of the zone,
right?
And that's enough information that you don't really need it to tell you the order to do things. You can just look at the map and go, all right, well, there's power up there I can get to, and the power up here, and then this corridor gives me this key, and then you can move on.
Yeah. I would like to say that of all of the people that I have met over the years, at least since 95 or so, that were into older games, into NES era games, you are the second person that I have met in person who already knew of the game before I introduced it to them. After about 95 or so. Before that, I knew some people who had already heard of the game. But after that, that
makes me so sad.
You and a guy named Gary. That was it. Everybody else...
Gary, I love you!
Everybody else that I mentioned this game to, they're like, what's that?
I will say this. If you're like, hey, I don't know that I'm down for the labyrinth, whatever, the Corridor Rush mode is a very good shmup. It's very fun. One of the better shmups on the system.
The labyrinth part is my favorite part of the game.
I mean, I love the labyrinth part too, but if you're like, I don't really want to wander around and have to get power-ups and shit, I just want to play a shmup, that's in here because it is multi-genre.
Right. Well, the design and art assets of the labyrinth area is the part that really got my attention the first time that I saw it. Was
True.
Just seeing all the little random bricks and shit, and the way that you get to the either the landers or the corridors by jumping on the little or walking onto the little squares, and that happen to be positioned right in the center of the screen. I don't know what it is about that.
It has this very kind of weird symmetricalness to it. It's very visually satisfying.
And the fact that all the destroyable blocks or the blocks that you walk on to go to the next screen are all these little squares. Something about it scratches that same itch for me as every block puzzle in a Zelda game, even though they are not block puzzles.
Right.
And I don't know why.
So I highly, highly recommend the game. I would say maybe don't play it with a guide, but play it with a map.
Yeah.
I would say that, just pull up a map of, because it's really the whole game, the labyrinth area, it's not that big.
Right.
When you get right down to just sheer number of screens, and then you cut out the corridor screens because that's just the door to the corridor.
Right.
It's not a massive game.
That said,
it really
no shame
is
if you need a guide, though.
No, yeah, ever, never, ever. You play games however you want.
Right.
You could turn on invincibility and run through it that way. I don't care. Just play it. Please play it, and then tell Irem to release it so I can play it on something else, please. Anyway, you could also tell Irem about our Patreon.
I gotta say real quick, since Irem just, I don't even remember who it was that did it, some company I'd never heard of before, but since Irem just gave somebody the rights to make a sequel to R-Type Final out of nowhere, you never know. You never know what could happen.
I do never know, but I don't
Keep
know.
your hopes up.
I will never. Anyway, go to patreon.com/Retro Warriors to find all our things that are there.
Yes.
Also, rate
are
review the
there.
show on iTunes, preferably. I hate to drive people to an Apple-owned platform or any specific platform because we should have platform freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But iTunes really does drive podcasts and stuff.
Right.
So if you have access to iTunes, or you listen to us via iTunes or on an Apple device, then that would be helpful. But really, rating, reviewing us wherever you hear the show,
True.
which hopefully is not in one of those weird re-hosted places. It's
That is weird.
on our actual RSS feed.
And broke our Google feed for a long time there.
Yeah. And if you need us to point you to the exact URL of our bare RSS feed,
Yes.
then you can join our Discord. There's a link in the show description, and you can come say, hey, exactly where. Also, you can just go to retrowarriors.net.
Yes.
And then click on subscribe. I don't know why I don't fucking point people there.
Right.
I
there.
made the website, and then I'm like, don't tell anyone about our secret website.
Isn't it also, doesn't it have a link to the Discord on the website too?
Yeah, it's, I'm just going to tell everyone to go there.
Yeah.
What a great idea of this website that we've had for years. I like that it took me 5 years to figure it out, though.
That's good. I'm
There's
glad
a
you did
reason
get there,
that people
though.
have webs. RetroWarriors.net. That's us. You can go there. All our stuff's there. The magazine's there. Written content is there. The show's there. Subscribe, et cetera, et cetera.
I imagine somebody who's been a patron for years is going to hear this episode and be like, they have a website?
I mean, to be fair, everything posted on the website is also posted on Patreon.
Right.
But we do have a website, retrowarriors.net. It's pretty barren.
Yes.
It's mostly just show posts and hard links to things that I
Right.
try to keep semi-updated. I don't know if our Redbubble's on there. It should be on there.
You should put it
now
there.
I gotta update the website. I gotta log into Tumblr. It's hell on earth.
Oh, God, why'd you do that?
Anyway, what's not hell on earth is the wonderful patrons who we want to thank, such as a winner is me.
What's not hell on earth, really? Sorry. Also, Atari 2600 consultant, Marlo 221.
Chris Reppersberg.
Danny Spiteri.
Dr. Jason Tharp.
Wilma Dickfit.
I don't know, Saturn. Will it? The New Craft.
Todd Bass.
Will you please stop leaving your clipped toenails on the kitchen counter?
That's where they go, Justin.
I'm going to eat them later.
Oh, God. And also William Owens.
I'm going to sprinkle on top of a casserole for that crunchy afterbite.
Afterbite.
I don't know. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for all those patrons that made this show possible.
Indeed.
And thank you for being a part of whatever
The fuck just happened.
this is. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. And as always, let us cling together.
together.